What did you make of Danny Finkelstein's piece in the Times?
Well, he's right. And I think the encouraging thing is that people thought Ted Heath couldn't win the 1970 election, and they thought John Major couldn't win the 1992 election. So if we can have a belief we can win, we need to do the things now which will make it likely, rather than wait until we possibly lose and then do the things to make it likely we win the time after that.
I don't know if you were able to hear, but Sean Worth was just saying there's a problem in that, in the sense that on the stuff that the membership of the party want on the economy, he can't do. On things like housing and planning, he seems reluctant to do it. There isn't room to do it. And on migration, he's getting a hammering from every which way. I mean, the election could be just less than a year away, Peter.
But the election will come when it will come, before January 2025. I think that if I can use a cliche of rolling the pitch, if government has said when the immigration figures come out, it will include the Hong Kongers, it will include the people from Ukraine, it will include some of the other people from other conflicts, and then let's look at what the underlying figures are, including those who cross unauthorised, illegally across the channel. People would have understood that better. On the planning, because I don't take the headlines seriously. If you talk to the members of the Conservative Environmental Network, who are the MPs who want to stop the top-down planning, I think that if you trust local government, you'll get many more homes built in ways that are acceptable to those who have homes and those who have green fields. So I can see a way forward on that without controversy. And the underlying point is if the Conservative Party at base is not an ideological party, we're a national interest party. That means having local interests as well. And I commend to the party, and I'll say it to Rishi Sunak if I get the chance, look what my great-grandfather did in 1906 in London, where he helped create the London Municipal Society. The municipal reformers stood and kept control of London for 25 years. That's the way forward.
Does it surprise you, given your years of experience, that so many bright young stars, even people behind the red wall like Deanna Davidson, who, a good friend of mine, used to work here at GBNews as well, have decided that the outlook is so gloomy that they're calling it a day right now? They are declaring publicly that they're not going to restand come that election, whenever it is.
Well, it's fairly normal. And the first Member of Parliament I remember meeting was a man called Nigel Davis, who got elected in 1950 and stood down in 1951 because he thought it wasn't quite for him. People who are former MPs can do amazing jobs. You only have to look around to see them. There's one Labour MP, for example, who did one term, is now chief economist at the Institute of Directors. There are all sorts of contributions people can make outside of the Palace of Westminster. So I think that 9 out of over 350 MPs have already said, in front of the deadline of early December, they're not standing again. That's a normal number. It's not an abnormal number.
How big a danger, in your reading, is Reform UK? Came from nowhere, but are now beginning to wave a little flag or two in the opinion polls. And it reminded me of what the SDP did to Labour back in the late 70s, early 80s, and a little bit of what Brexit and UKIP did to your own party in the run-up to the referendum.
Well, it's obviously a danger. If you split the non-Labour vote, you end up with Labour. If you split the non-Labour vote, you end up with an alliance in government of Labour, Greens, Lib Dems, and possibly the SNP, even though Sir Keir Starmer denies he'd do that. I think we need to just again go back to perhaps the 2017 election, where the SNP only got 37% of the vote in Scotland. Tories got 44% across the country as a whole. I think if we get the approach right in Scotland, now that Nicola Sturgeon and the SNP have made a mistake over devolution and constitution, we can get the Tories up in Scotland, and we can make people think that actually having the anti-Labour coalition called the Tory party working is better than having the anti-Conservative one, which will do it, I think, and many other people think, a lot of damage to the country's long-term interests.